This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so there's the, let me go back up to the first screen so people tuning into this later can see. That's our introductory. This is a review course for state and business planning as of today, September 10th, 2020. And here are the two presenters, myself, James Seidel. My main office is in Bowyersville, and then Sonia Rustici from Fredericksburg. Let me go ahead and introduce myself with Sonia, and then I'll turn it over to you for your slide. This is a second generation practice. My dad started the practice during World War II. I've been an attorney since 1980, former judge advocate, concentrating in estate business planning. That puts this law firm kind of as a boutique operation. We don't do things like traffic tickets and divorces and those sorts of things. So we can fully concentrate on estate and business planning. Last degree was Masters of Tax Law and Taxation from William & Mary. A member of the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys. Our motto is we do plans that work, and that's really true. We aim to make plans work, and we stand behind our clients. This is one reason why I think this really is a good idea to give our existing clients an opportunity to review. I personally have about 1,300 clients, and in the introductory booklet, which will be available upon request, has my bio at page 6. Sonia, you want to take her away?
Yeah, sure. So welcome everyone, and I'm glad to be here tonight handling this presentation with Jim Seidel, talking about something that I feel so passionate about, estates and trusts planning. I've been in this area of law for over 20 years, probably about 24 years now. And I have worked for a law firm in DC for about 12 years. And primarily all I did with that law firm was probate. So I assisted executors and administrators through the probate process in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And I can tell you that's something you want to avoid. It's costly and it is a burdensome, lengthy process. I've also served as a bank trust officer for about 6 years, where the bank was named as trustee or executor. A lot of people don't have a family member or a close friend to name as trustee, so they'll name a professional like a bank. And so my job there was to administer all these trusts and wills where the bank was named as the fiduciary. I am full-time with the Jim Seidel Law Office. I do run a small business on the side, Estates and Trust Paralegal Services, where my business, we help people who are in the government process where they're required to file reports. Maybe it's a guardianship or conservatorship or probate, so I can handle those documents. I do have my law degree, and I am working on getting my Virginia license to practice law here in Virginia. That I'm scheduled to be able to take that exam in February of 2021. But I thoroughly love my job and love what I do, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this evening.
Yeah, and Sonia's a pleasure to work with. So here's, if you haven't been with me for a few years, there's been some changes here. We now have 6 offices: Bowyersville, Warrenton, Dillwyn, Fredericksburg, Fairfax, and Bowie, Maryland. And I now have 5 paralegals: secretary, managing paralegal, senior, assistant paralegal, associate paralegal. My assistant paralegal, Ron Smallwood, is joining us today. Ron, say hello to all our attendees.
Hello.
All right, Sonia, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so we are fully operational. During the COVID virus, we are still meeting with clients. And so we've been doing a lot of meetings by virtual meeting, and to keep us safe, to keep our clients safe. But we are still offering all of the same services we've offered in the past. And we do have offices throughout the region: Fairfax, Fredericksburg, Manassas, to name a few. And we are starting to meet with clients in those offices. and we are practicing safety, for our health and your health. So we will wear the mask and sometimes the gloves, and social distancing. We have that in place as well. So we are here for our existing clients.
Yeah, my next week, by the way, I'm meeting 6 clients in person. So I do in-person meetings. And if anybody's at risk, we wear masks, and we stay as far apart as possible.
Yeah.
There are handouts. If this were back at pre-COVID days, we would have all of these stuff given to you, but they are available upon request. Introductory booklet, copy of today's slides, recording of today's seminar, webinar evaluation, appointment, a 5% discount certificate. And then right below that, you'll see how you can get a hold of us to get those available handouts. Okay, Sonia, you want to take it from here?
Well, what is estate planning? Okay, estate planning is really where you put documents in place and name people to handle things for you, to be able to manage all your money, your income, and your assets and your affairs when you become incapacitated. That's that before death planning. You have documents in place where you're naming someone to settle your estate and transfer your assets to your loved ones. That's that after death planning. And so we have our estate planning defined here. Both parts are covered, the before death and the after death. And that's really what you want. You want to make this burden or this process as least burdensome upon your family as possible. And you want to save as many court costs and taxes and court costs as possible too. So that's basically what estate planning is. And so that's what we do. We put these documents in place for you.
You can't read this very well, but if you've been my prior clients, you've got this review form in your package. If you have a binder, it's usually within the first 6 pages of the front of the binder. I only bring this to your attention because it's got a whole list of things for you to think about that would help drive you back to update or revise your documents. Sonia?
What we recommend to our existing clients is that they do see us once every 3 years for a review meeting. And at that review meeting, we will make sure that you have all your documents, that you're not missing any documents. We like for you to bring your red binder, your gray envelope to the meeting. And depending on what type of a estate plan package you have in place, we will make sure, like I said, you have all your documents in place. You're not missing anything. If you're using the living trust, we'll make sure it's properly funded. If you have a business involved, we'll make sure that all your business documents are in place and the business is properly funded. So this is what we recommend to our existing clients, that you do this 3-year review meeting.
Yeah, basically, with this kind of went through what Sonia just went through. There's 3, if you want 3 broad areas we're looking at the documents. Do they need to be updated? Fiduciaries, we're going to have a little bit more on that. We want to make sure they're current, such as your executors and trustees. And are your beneficiaries current? I mean, sometimes people will change their beneficiaries. I mean, I was just working on a case today where we had the tragedy of an adult daughter passing on. So we were updating the plan based upon that fact.
Yeah.
So all yours.
Right. And so some of the real common changes that a lot of clients see that they want to update, changing their fiduciary. Many times, we forget who have we named to be managing our finances when we become disabled. Who is that person? Who's going to be managing trust for our children? Who's our guardian for our children? And so, as years pass, you forget who you've named, and then suddenly when it's brought to your attention who these people are, you think, oh gosh, I don't know if I want that person to be involved anymore. So we see a lot of clients coming back and changing who they've named as their fiduciaries. Also, as time goes on, your children grow up and your children become adults, and a lot of times clients will name their children as their fiduciaries. So if you did your documents when your children were still very young and minors, likely you've got your sisters or your mom or your dad or your own friends as your fiduciaries. But as your children grow up, if your children are healthy and are mature, then you'll want to put your children on as your fiduciaries, because really, after all, your children are going to be the ones taking care of you when you're elderly.
Well, these are other things that people look at when they change their documents, changing beneficiaries, beneficiary subtrust. When you have a beneficiary, there's two things that you have to keep in mind: how much they're getting and when they are getting. And the subtrust helps us establish when they're getting it. And there's all variety of beneficiary subtrust. And we find many clients coming back want to change the trustee. Maybe before they were doing it outright, now they realize that we should hold it in some kind of asset protection trust because the child has got some difficulties one way or another. Specific gifts, gifts to charity, gifts to particular people, your marital status, if that's changed, that's going to require an update in the documents. If you've had health issues, that could change your documents. Finances and assets have changed. Maybe you bought that beach house. Maybe you've moved a residency. Maybe you've acquired something through inheritance. All those may require updates in estate planning. And then your tax status. You may have gone from a tax problem to tax. You didn't need tax planning, whereas now you do, or vice versa. Okay, Sonia.
Yeah, that's right. So also, if you're running a business, then it's really important that you conduct your annual meetings. I mean, the law does require that you have an annual meeting and you keep minutes of that meeting. You know, if you're running a business and you have a new person helping you with the business, someone, a partner, a new owner, you want to make sure your documents reflect that there's additional owners of the business, or perhaps you've acquired additional assets for the business or gotten rid of some assets. So your documents need to reflect what are the assets of the business. You want to make sure your registered agent is obviously up to date and is still on file with the State Corporation Commission, because this could affect your validity as a business. If you are you doing business in a different state? Okay, maybe you are bought a rental house in a different state and you're now conducting business there. You want to make sure that you do file your Virginia documents with that other state in order to get those creditor protections. So if you are running a business, these are some of the things that we're going to look at and talk to you about to see if maybe we need to, change your documents, add some documents to your business planning portfolio to show these changes.
Okay, we're going to talk about some recent estate planning changes, as well as the changes in best practices that we have discovered or we continue to evolve into. So recent law developments include probably the biggest one is the federal state estate tax law changes. Not so much state, because, for example, Virginia hasn't had state taxes since, I want to say, 2009. But the federal law has changed significantly. We've gone from 10, 15 years ago where it was as low as $1 million, and now the federal amount is 11.5 million per person. So if you have under that amount, you don't have to worry about federal taxes. Unfortunately, that 11.5 is going to default back to about 5.2 million in a few years, 2025. And if the election results go a certain way, we could find us having more state taxes. I know one of the candidates is talking about lowering the estate tax exemption to 3.5 million, which would make the need for estate tax planning much more important for a lot of people. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, has been enacted. Very important that your document has that in there, mainly that you're waiving the restrictions for your own medical agent and for everyone else, your trustees and so forth, so people can access your medical records if you're disabled or mentally disabled. There's been Virginia, Maryland statutory law changes, so there's been code changes. I think any any document that's much more than 5 years old, we now have different statutory citations, and those should be updated. Virginia continues to do weird things as far as motor vehicles, and there's been policy changes. So we will talk to you about motor vehicle, especially if you have a trust and you want to fund your motor vehicle to the trust. Sonia?
Yep. And, in particular because of COVID-19, you really want to review your advanced medical directive and make sure that, you've got the right person going to be making your medical decisions for you when you're incapacitated. Okay, this document also has your end of life decision. So you want to make sure that that's exactly what you want. Funeral directives. Okay, so the funeral directives is where you decide who's going to be handling your burial and making your funeral and your burial decisions. So Virginia has a statute now that you get to decide who's doing that, and it may not be a blood relative. Maybe it's your significant other that you want to handle those things. So you want to make sure that your funeral directive is up to date according to the Virginia statute, so the right person is making those decisions for you. We just had a major change in federal tax laws in December of 2019, which drastically changed the way that your beneficiaries are going to receive your retirement plans. So non-spouse beneficiaries have to pay all the taxes within 10 years now. So that has really impacted your beneficiary planning, and we think it's a good idea for your trust to receive those retirement plans, and those retirement plans pass down to your beneficiaries with creditor protections.
Some of the best practices that we now incorporate: trust protective provisions. This allows your documents, your trust, to be altered and amended if you are disabled or deceased without having to go into court. So we save an enormous amount of expenses and time, and gives us a lot more flexibility. That we now urge everyone to have trust protective provisions. Asset protection subtrust for kids, I alluded to this earlier. This is something that we are pushing harder these days because children are vulnerable to divorces, bankruptcies, lawsuits, and we can create subtrusts that protect them for that. Managing fiduciaries when co-trustees are appointed. So if we have, especially if we have 3 or more fiduciaries appointed as co-trustees or whatever, then we would have, we now have a managing trustee appointed. No contest clauses, that's been updated to make it a little more sound and workable. Limited powers to invest, we've now included that. Limited power of appointment. And these all give us a lot more flexibility, because it's hard to know way in advance how things are going to play out. And if you have a limited power of appointment, you, for example, can redirect money that is locked into a child. That, say we had a case where a child was in jail and we didn't want the money going there, so we exercised limited power appointment to go a different direction.
Yeah. So as Jim had said before, there's been a lot of changes in estate tax law. Okay, really drastic changes in the estate tax laws for the states as well as the federal. So we see here Virginia has not had a death tax since 2007. So if you've done your documents prior to 2007, it's likely you need to update those documents, make them simpler, simplify them, because Virginia no longer has the death tax. If you did your documents prior to 2007, there's likely to be additional provisions in there that can be removed. Maryland, they've raised their exemption amount. So they used to be about $2 million. Now we've got it at $5 million a person can pass without suffering the death tax. The District of Columbia is about $5 million. That used to be about $1 million. So we see Maryland and DC raising the threshold. So if you're a Maryland or DC client, it's now time to come in and remove some of these more complicated provisions in your documents that you no longer need to have, that could make your documents more confusing to your children and financial institutions.
A little bit of word about federal state taxes. I mentioned earlier, this is a big change. Hard to read this, but if you look at the bottom row, 2020, 11.8 million. Most of us are under that, except maybe Ron Smallwood, who's with us. He's probably over that. But again, you got to worry about defaulting back to 5 million and changing even more drastically due to the elections.
Yeah. So two primary estate plan packages that our office offers. This is not exclusive, but probably the bulk of what we do living trust package or a will package. So, and then you see at the bottom boxes the various documents that are included in each of these packages. We're going to get into and to discuss more about the benefits of using a trust versus a will here on the next slides.
Okay, so this is just a generic sort of slide on joint living trust for married couples, which under new laws now can include same gender situations. It splits into a family and a marital trust. And besides estate tax planning, this can also protect the estate from the surviving spouse's remarriages, creditors, lawsuits, and nursing home. And then at the death of the surviving spouse, and it goes down to the children. We have three different trusts indicated here: a creditor protection trust for child 1, a general needs trust for child 2, and a special needs trust for a disabled child number 3.
Yeah. So, you know, the benefits of using a living trust versus a will is the living trust is going to cover the before death planning and the after death planning. So your living trust, you're going to name someone who will be managing the assets prior to your death when you become disabled. And then after your death, you name someone who's going to be settling those assets and distributing them to your beneficiaries after your death. So we see here that a living trust would avoid those government conservatorships of your assets before you die, as well as the probate of your assets after you die. So living trusts provide a lot more ways to provide for your beneficiaries, and it really simplifies things and increases the control, because a living trust is a private plan and it puts everything entirely in the hands of your family rather than the court.
Okay, a little word about will planning. So your typical traditional will planning, sometimes called an I love you will for a married couple. At the first spouse's death, it goes to the surviving spouse and then everything down to the beneficiaries. This is much better than nothing at all, as at least we get executors, beneficiaries, guardians, waiver of bond, and creating trust if necessary accomplished. And then a good will package will include power of attorney and medical directives.
Yeah, that's right. And so, and we want to remind everyone too that wills do require probate. What is probate? Probate is when the government is going to be supervising those assets passing through the will down to your beneficiaries. So it is a legal court process. Probably average time to probate a will, I mean, I know this from experience because I did this for 12 years, is about 2 years. Because the government needs to make sure that the decedent has paid and has filed all their tax returns and paid all their taxes. So, you know, trying to get a hold of the IRS to give us back an approval letter, you're looking, it's going to take a couple of years. So the court wants to, is going to be make sure that all the debts have been satisfied before they distribute the assets to the beneficiaries. So your beneficiary is going to be waiting a while to get their inheritance through the will. It is costly, you know, probably about 10% or more of the value of the probate assets is going to go to those legal fees. You know, a lawyer may have to get involved, which ratchets up the cost. But there are inventories and accountings too that your executor is going to be required to file with the court through that process.
You can't read this as a probate process chart by Henry Apps. Henry and I were friends. Henry wrote the bestseller book called The Living Trust. This is one of the pages. But his point here was people will say probate can be easy, and indeed there are a number of probate cases that go fairly smoothly. But this chart shows all the different various ways that a probate estate could be hung up in one way or another. So that's why we're proponents of living trust. We do a fair number of wills, but we are proponents of the living trust system.
Yeah, that's right. So some things to think about, you know, which may, you know, cause you to need to upgrade your plan or redo some of your documents. Have your beneficiaries passed away? You know, has somebody died? Has your children become disabled, severely disabled or disabled? So now we need to think about maybe we want to change the way they inherit. Have you gone through a divorce? Okay, or have you acquired significant debt? Or do you want to just inherit someone? So these would all be cause for you to make some changes to your documents to make your documents fit more in line with your circumstances.
So I mentioned earlier sub-trusts. One of the things we want to examine if you come back for a review is the beneficiary trust for spouses, inheritance protection trust, common trust, general needs trust, lifetime trust, and special needs trust. So we are very good and we have really nicely developed trust in each of these categories, and we can help you guide you through to see if what you've got still works for you. I find that it seems like as people get older, they get more conservative and they'll tighten up the distributions going to their kids is one thing I've noticed. Picture of myself and I have a autistic son. By the way, I've changed his guardian about 3 or 4 times over the years. I now have a court order that will allow my daughter to automatically take over as guardian when I and Jimmy's mom are deceased. And this picture was taken in the Rotishis. Sonia had me over for a weekend, and that's her boat in the background there. So,
Sure. Yeah.
okay, Sonia, take her away.
Yeah. And some other things that may prompt some changes to your documents is special gifts. You might have some special gifts in your documents that you've completely forgotten about. These special gifts come off the top of your estate. So before your primary beneficiaries receive their inheritance, these gifts are paid in advance of that, or they're paid first. So maybe you were a little too liberal on some of those gifts, and now you want to kind of, trim them back a little bit because those are going to be paid up front. These might be gifts to your nephews and nieces, or grandchildren, or your church, or to your best friend. We have some clients that will use a special gift to put money in trust for their dog or their pet in a pet care trust. Remote heirs. I like to say when I meet with clients that it's highly remote that your remote heirs will receive your estate, but it's not uncommon. Your remote heirs would only receive your estate if all of your named beneficiaries are gone. So if you are gone and all your children and all your children's children, all your descendants, all your beneficiaries named in your trust are gone in some tragic accident, then the remote heirs are going to receive your estate. So we see examples of charities or set of charities or individuals or friends. So maybe you want to do some changes to that section of the document.
Changing with regard to your spouse, do we need if your spouse has passed on, do we need to activate family and marital trust? Very important. People delay getting in to see us when these marital and family trusts need to be set up right away if they're built into your living trust. Need to probate the deceased spouse's assets. Might we need to remove the deceased spouse from the fiduciary in all our documents? That way you don't have to prove death every time you walk into the bank or something like that. Maybe need to make gifts from the deceased spouse if he or she has directed gifts at their death. We need to update the estate business plan. So death of a spouse, I think it's a no-brainer. You ought to give us a call and let us go through and see what changes have to be made. And if there isn't any, it's still worth a visit.
Yeah, that's right. And also, particularly if your spouse has suffered some cognitive issues and like dementia or Alzheimer's, this is you definitely want to come and see us because we need to remove your spouse. Your spouse is probably named as your primary fiduciary. Okay, so your documents need to be updated to remove the spouse there. As well as if your spouse has entered a nursing home, maybe it might be time to think about moving your assets to an irrevocable trust if you're worried about your assets being eroded by those types of costs. So yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So one of the reasons we bring up this issue about disabled spouses is that a disabled spouse may end up in a nursing home. No shock to most people, but it's gone up almost $40,000 a year since 2004. And one of the things that we're doing more and more of these are what we call Medicaid planning trusts, where we're trying to protect the estate from nursing homes. We try to get our clients qualified for Medicaid as soon as possible upon going into nursing home, so that nursing home doesn't wipe out the estate. Another
Yeah.
area for spouses has to do with divorce. And so if you've gotten divorced, again, it's almost a no-brainer to come in. We got to get the surviving spouse or the divorced spouse off your power of attorney, medical agent, wills, and so forth. And in many cases, we need to prepare new documents. Okay, Sonia?
That's right. So yeah, and also, so divorce is one thing and marriage is another thing. So maybe you've gotten divorced, now you're thinking about getting remarried. And so this may be a second marriage, and both of you are coming into the marriage with your own assets. You each have your own assets. So it's particularly important for you to have a marital agreement, perhaps a prenup, so that if there is a divorce, if the two of you decide to end the marriage, then each of you will walk out of the marriage with the assets you brought into the marriage and wouldn't be able to attach each others, as well as if you pass away, the marital agreement would say that your spouse is not entitled to any of your estate. Because most states have laws that protect the surviving spouse, and you cannot just disinherit your spouse. Also, other questions: if you're married again, I mean, do you want to name your new wife or your husband as your medical agent? So a lot of times my clients will want their new spouse to be their medical agent, make their medical decisions, but maybe not make their financial decisions for them. So these are all, or do you want to support your spouse too when you pass away? Maybe you want to leave some of your estate to him or her. If you're married to a non-citizen spouse, we definitely need to put some additional provisions in your documents so that your documents would not be subject to that non-citizen spouse's foreign jurisdiction. So these are just some of the things that we'd be talking to you about if you're considering marriage.
Funding your living trust. Very critical. If you have a living trust, we advocate what's called a fully funded trust. Things that we want to be looking at is real estate, including timeshares. So if you've acquired new real estate, then we want to take a look at that, make sure it's in the trust. Bank and investment accounts. Again, if you've got new bank accounts, we need to put them into the trust. Automobiles, life insurance policies, we want to make sure the trust is designated as the beneficiary. Retirement plans, we want to make sure the spouse is named first, trust second. Businesses, we want to make sure businesses go to the person that we want it to go to. If we have, 3 kids, but 1 kid is involved in the business, then we want to make sure the business probably goes to that child. And if you've received inheritance, where is that going to go? Is that going to bypass your spouse, since this is coming from your side of the family down to your kids? So those are the kind of things we'll be talking about in funding your trust. By the way, Ron, who is sitting in here tonight, is sort of our funding guru. He helps people make sure that they're funding the trust. It's the funding part that saves the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in probate fees and executor and guardianship fees, and that's one of the purposes of the trust.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me go ahead and take this, Sonia. So one of the things we also really want to encourage people who have any kind of businesses, no matter how small and humble it might be, that we seriously consider incorporating you, because you can get sued, you can have creditor problems coming out of unincorporated businesses where people can come after you, and membership can be unclear. For example, if we have a husband and wife with an unincorporated business, we're never sure if it's a husband and wife business, or if it's just a husband business, or if it's just a wife business, and that could be critical if we've got a bankruptcy or a lawsuit that we're facing. So we encourage people with businesses to consider incorporation, and we favor limited liability companies as the entity of choice.
Yeah.
Okay, Sonia, all yours.
So what the process is that we encourage you to come in for a review meeting. And at this meeting, we will review things like your address, your contact information. We want to make sure we have your up-to-date contact information. So that's why we ask you to complete that intake form. Your estate inventory is going to give us some information about your health and your, whether you're still working, things like that, and your net worth statement. We want to see if there's been any changes to your net worth, as well as the changes to your asset mix. How have your assets changed? So at the review meeting, we ask you to bring the red binder and your gray envelope. We want to make sure all your documents are there, that you're not missing any documents. And then we will remind you as to who you've named to serve in the various capacities and how your children are inheriting currently. And then we talk about any changes you'd like to make, and then we will make a recommendation to you. Now, our office charges $300 for this review meeting. It's about 2 hours long, so you're really getting a lot of time for that fee. And then at the end of the review meeting, we will make a recommendation to you, and then we will quote you a fee to upgrade your documents. We also offer a 5% discount to the webinar attendees. And then if you decide that you want us to make these changes for you, we'll ask to take your red binder, your gray envelope back to the office with us. You'll have to pay 1/2 the fee at that time, and then we will proceed to make all these changes to your documents, and then we'll schedule a signing meeting, bring all the documents back to you for your signing, and then that's when the final 1/2 will be due from you.
Okay, a couple things in conclusion here. If you do want to receive a recording of today's webinar, you can call our office, but there's some instructions right here. Go to our website, www.jamesseidelaw.com, click latest workshop, click the YouTube link, and then choose today's webinar, or for that matter, any of our other fine webinars. If you do call, this is who this is who you would be calling. This is Linda. Linda is presently out. She had major surgery on her knee, and she's going to be out for probably another 3-4 weeks. So Harriet, a retired secretary of mine, is filling in. But when you call these fine ladies, they will get you all set up for a review meeting. We call it an RM, so that we can look at your documents and continue to make sure they're the best workable documents and plan possible. And here's our contact information again. The phone 434-964-0366. Email office@jamesseidelaw.com. In the web, www.jamesseidelaw.com. And again, you can request a copy of today's PowerPoint charts, introductory booklet, the evaluation and sign up, and the 5% discount certificate on our fees. Sonia, you want to say anything about the upcoming webinars?
Yeah, so we do have 3 more upcoming webinars. So these are the ones we have scheduled right now. The November 10th, another one that we're going to be doing just like tonight, February the 11th and April 6th. So if you I think it's always a good idea to hear this a couple of times. It is a lot of information, and the more times you hear and listen to it, you really actually get more and more out of it each time. So we welcome you to come back to one of our other webinars and have an opportunity to ask your questions. Maybe you forgot to ask a question, or you just thought of something after the fact. But we hope to see you at one of our upcoming webinars.
All right, if there are any questions or things, you can either ask us verbally or you can do it on chat. So the next step here, if you want to move forward, is just contact us, tell us you want to move forward. And I think, I pride this office in responding to people. I mean, I hear people all the time come in and say, they called their lawyer and didn't get a return call back. And we hope we don't do that ever. Now, you may not get a return call back that same day, but we'll get you in the next day. My secretary really keeps busy. She keeps hopping all day with 1,300 clients, you can imagine, and all of them are well taken care of. We have their 6 to make sure they stay out of at least estate planning and business trouble.
Jim's Bob Johnson here.
Okay, Bob, what do you got?
I hate to be well, I do need to make an appointment with your Fredericksburg folks to look over our stuff. We're
Okay.
about COVID-19 and our power of attorney and the medical. So we'll do that in a week or two, but I hate to be a techie, but you've been running all night long with just normal view of your slides. There's a place up there called Slideshow.
Ah,
If you click on Slideshow and do from beginning, we will see the
yes.
whole thing in a much bigger format.
Well, and you know what? I know that, but I just forgot about it. I'm sorry about that. That's a good point. Anything
No,
else?
that's
you
okay.
Anything else you noticed?
No, I apologize. I don't know what happened to my camera. This Windows 10 probably updated and broke something. So maybe next time I'll have a camera and you can see my face. So
Yeah. So,
thank you very much for putting this on.
okay, well, give us a call. Our operators are standing by. Every 5th caller gets a free Jinsu knife. No, just kidding. So,
Wait a minute, you promised me a free waffle.
oh yeah, that's right. That's for the first person to show up. Kristen, anything from you?
For a large part of it, my internet was trying to reboot, so I got parts of it. But I'm probably going to make an appointment because of the law changes and stuff like that, and some of the changes that have happened since 2012, which is
I will tell you, I would guess out of 10 people that come in for a review, I bet 8 of them really realize they've got to update the documents, and sometimes unbeknownst to them.
Oh no, I know I have to update them. I have lines drawn through it and initials everywhere.
Well, yes, and let me tell you, our standard advice is not to do that. If you want to do a line through, copy the page and make a line through the copy page, because you can end up revoking your document. So
no.
Come on in. There was a case where someone did that, and the judge said, you know what, I'm just throwing the whole document out. So yeah, the damn judges. So okay, any other questions from you guys?
I think I'm good.
So Ron and Sonia, if you guys would stay on, we'll do an after action review. And so nice having you guys. We look forward to seeing you in one of our offices.
I will give you a call probably in the next week or so.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Same to you, Bob.
Thanks. Y'all take care. Have a blessed week.
Okay.
Take care. Yeah, make sure you end the recording. Stop the recording.
Okay. I will do that now. Stop your recording.